All right, good night. We are doing a short lesson today. We will not be reading the chapters, but we will be answering the questions based on the chapters. So, first question, you could read out your own question, Tammy. So you could start.
Okay. How did Joseph react to Judah's speech? Joseph sent out all the people from the room. When he was alone with his brothers, he broke down and wept. He told them who he was, and he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him.
Next question. What did Joseph first say to his brothers, and how did they react? He said, I am Joseph. And then, is my father still alive? His brothers were stunned and dismayed.
How did Joseph overcome their fears? Joseph told them to come closer, and when they did, he said to them again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. He told them not to be upset or angry with themselves for what they did, because it was God who sent him ahead of them to prepare to keep them and their families alive. It was God who gave him his position as the advisor to Pharaoh.
What did he tell his brothers to say to their father? He said to tell Jacob that God made him the master of all Egypt, and to come immediately with all of your flocks and family and settle in the land of Goshen, because there would be 5 more years of famine remaining. Otherwise, they would starve.
How did he show his affection for his brothers? He wept with joy and embraced Benjamin. Then he kissed each of his brothers and wept over them.
And number 6. What did Pharaoh think of these developments? What did he command? What did he promise? Pharaoh was delighted, and he commanded that they take wagons from Egypt to bring all of Joseph's family to Egypt. And he promised them the best land of all Egypt.
Number 7. What did Joseph give to his brothers? What did he command them? Joseph gave them wagons and supplies for their journey, and he gave each of them new clothes. To Benjamin, he gave 5 changes of clothes and 300 pieces of silver. He also sent his father 10 male donkeys loaded with the finest products of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other supplies he would need on his way. He commanded them not to quarrel about all this along the way.
And 8. What news did Jacob's son bring to him, and how did he react? They told him that Joseph was still alive and that he was the governor of the land of Egypt. Joseph at first was stunned and did not believe them. Not Joseph,
Number,
sorry, Jacob.
number 9. How was he convinced they spoke the truth? What did he then say? When they repeated to Jacob everything Joseph had told them, and when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent to carry him, his spirits revived. Then he exclaimed, It must be true. My son Joseph is alive, I must go and see him before I die.
And then thought questions. I don't know. I think they kind of, the first two at least are very straightforward. So I don't know if we want to do double answers for the first two, but anyway. Why was Joseph sent to Egypt? Joseph was sent ahead so that in being promoted to the head of Egypt after Potiphar, he would be able to save his family from famine and starvation. If you have anything different, you could add it, or if not, you can move on to the next question.
I just have that also he was sent there to save Egypt as well and to prepare the way for the beginning of the nation of Israel.
And who sent him there?
God.
Okay. And what do you have for number 3? What does this reveal about the providence of God?
Although Joseph's brothers had wanted to get rid of him, God used even their evil actions to fulfill his ultimate plan. God is sovereign. His plans are not dictated by human actions.
Okay. So I have providence is defined as the protective care and guidance of God. And the verse that reveals the providence of God is Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Now, this shows that God is capable of bringing good out of evil. So we still have free will, but even though men have free will and men could commit evil deeds, God could still work everything out for our good in the big picture. And there's a verse in Romans 8:28, that's a memory verse. For all things work together for good to them that love God, to them that are called according to his service. So it also, from the article I was reading, it says that providence has wider issues than personal comfort and gain. So we do know that Joseph did receive personal comfort and gain, but this was after years of punishment for stuff that he didn't do. So sometimes, well, not sometimes actually, a lot of times we let our human nature thwart the working of God's hand in our lives. And it doesn't mean that God's will is not going to be fulfilled, but it might not be fulfilled through us if we don't yield to him. So like how Joseph, he still had his free will and he still had to be obedient and also not become embittered towards his brothers. So he had a part to play as well. And to cooperate with God so that God would be able to work through him. And he had to suffer a lot because he had to suffer in the prison. He had to suffer through being falsely accused. He had to be a slave. And when he didn't know exactly what was going to happen at the time, he didn't know he was going to be promoted while he was suffering. Right? So that's what happens to us. Like we suffer and we don't really, can't tell the future. We know that the Bible says it'll work out for our good, but we don't know how, we don't know when. So God may allow us to suffer so that others may be blessed. Because his blessings, it wasn't just him being blessed, it was everyone being blessed. It was Egypt being blessed, it was the brothers who sold him into slavery being blessed, his whole family being blessed because of his obedience. I thought it was interesting. Did you read the poem that I sent?
Yeah.
It was a I'm gonna read it again because I'm reading the full one.
Okay.
This is by William Cowper. God moves in a mysterious way his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps in the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never failing skill, he treasures up his bright designs and works his sovereign will. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds ye so much dread are big with mercy and shall break in blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to err and scan his work in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain. I think I'll send that in the chapters. It's the full poem. So really okay. You want to start over with the first fact question?
Okay. Relate the story of Israel's journey to Egypt and of God's reassurance to him. Israel set out for Egypt with all his possessions. He offered sacrifices to God at Beersheba. During the night, God spoke to him in a vision. God told him not to be afraid to go down to Egypt because he will make his family a great nation. God said he would go down to Egypt with Israel and he would bring him back again. But Israel would die in Egypt with Joseph attending to him. Israel left Beersheba and his sons took him to Egypt.
And next, how large was the family of Israel at this time? The family was still small and had yet to be developed into a great nation. It was Jacob, his children and grandchildren, and there were 70 members in total. That was the direct Jacob and his direct descendants.
Number 3, tell about the reunion of Israel and his family with Joseph. Israel sent Judah ahead to meet Joseph and get directions to Goshen. When they arrived, Joseph traveled in his chariot to meet them there. When he met them, he embraced his father for a long time and wept. Israel said to him that he was ready to die because he had seen his face and knows that he is still alive. Joseph said to his entire family he would go to Pharaoh and tell him they had all arrived from Canaan. He said he would tell him they are shepherds and they had brought their flocks with them. He told them when Pharaoh asked about their occupation to tell him that they are shepherds and they have raised livestock their whole lives as their ancestors did.
And then Next, we are looking at Israel settles in Egypt. Question number 1. Tell about Joseph's brothers and father meeting Pharaoh. Joseph went before Pharaoh and told him that his family had arrived and were in Egypt. He presented 5 of his brothers who told Pharaoh that they were shepherds who came with their livestock. Pharaoh gave them permission to take the best land in Egypt, the land of Goshen, and he permitted the able men to be in charge of his own livestock. Jacob was then introduced to Pharaoh, and he told him that his age was 130 when asked. Jacob then blessed him before leaving the court.
What did Joseph do for his father's family? Joseph assigned the best land of Egypt, the region of Ramesses, to his father and his brothers, and he settled them there, just as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided food for his father and his brothers in amounts appropriate to the number of their dependents.
And the thought question, what was Israel's attitude about his own life? So the cross-reference was not about Jacob specifically, but it was about like him and his the ancestors, like Abraham and stuff. Those people. So describing all of them. They did not receive the promises of God in their lifetime, but they lived by faith as nomads, and they looked forward to a better place, a better life in heaven.
Okay.
All right, and next. How did Egypt and its peoples come to belong to Pharaoh? All right, if you didn't write the answer, do you remember reading about it and what you remember reading?
Yeah, I kind of wrote down, I wrote a little bit.
Okay.
But there's the question before, I had just said that he placed more value on the life of his son Joseph than his own life.
Okay.
That was the from like when they when he met him again and he said, it was like now because he knew that he alive, like he could die now. Yeah. Okay, this one. The famine became so severe that all the food was used up, and all the people in Egypt and Canaan were starving. By selling grain, Joseph eventually collected all their money. When the people ran out of money, they exchanged their livestock for more food. This food lasted about a year, and when that year ended, the people were then forced to exchange their freedom and their lands for more food.
Okay. And the exception to that was the priest's land. That goes off in a psalm. There was a psalm that I wanted to read. Okay, I want to read. Is it long? Yeah, it's a little long, but I want to read this one. I want to read Psalm 105. I'll read from the King James Version. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the people. Sing unto him, sing psalms unto him. Talk ye of all his wondrous works. Glory ye in his holy name. Let the heart of them rejoice that seek the Lord. Seek the Lord and his strength. Seek his face evermore. Remember his marvelous works that he hath done, his wonders, and the judgments of his mouth. O ye seed of Abraham his servant, ye children of Jacob his chosen. He is the Lord our God. His judgments are in all the earth. He hath remembered his covenant forever, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations, which covenant he made with Abraham and his oath unto Isaac. And he confirmed the name unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant, saying, Unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance. When they were but a few men in number, yea, very few, and strangers in it, when they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another, he suffered no man to do them wrong. Yea, he reproved the kings for their sakes, saying, Touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm. Moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. He brake the whole staff of bread. He sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant, whose feet they hurt with fetters. He was laid in iron, until the time that his word came. The word of the Lord tried him. The king sent and loosed him, even the ruler of the people, and let him go free. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his substance, to bind his princes at his pleasure, and teach his senators wisdom. Israel also came unto Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. And he increased his people greatly, and made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtly with his servants. He sent Moses his servant and Aaron, whom he had chosen. They showed his signs among them and wonders in the land of Ham. He sent darkness and made it dark, and they rebelled not against his word. He turned their waters into blood and slew their fish. Their land brought forth frogs in abundance in the chambers of their king. He spake, and there came divers sort of flies and lice in all their coasts. He gave them hail for rain and flaming fire in their land. He smote their vines also and their fig trees, and brake the trees of their coasts. He spake, and the locusts came, and the caterpillars, and that without number, and did eat up all the herbs in their land, and devoured the fruit of their ground. He smote also all the firstborn in their land, the chief of all their strength. He brought them forth also with silver and gold, and there was not one feeble person among their tribe. Egypt was glad when they departed, for the fear of them fell upon him. He spread a cloud for a covering, and fire to give light in the night. The people asked, and he brought quails and satisfied them with the bread of heaven. He opened the rock, and the waters gushed out. They ran in dry places like a river. For he remembered his holy promise and Abraham his servant, and he brought forth his people with joy, and his chosen with gladness, and gave them the lands of the heathen, and they inherited the labor of the people, that they might observe his statutes and keep his laws. Praise ye the Lord. Amen.
Amen.